Hello and welcome to Founder Conversation series, where we share stories and wisdom on how to build a successful team. Today, we're talking about why smart founders still hire the wrong people. I'm Annique. I am a marketing hire and onboarding consultant, and I help businesses hire the right marketer and set the right environment so that marketers can succeed driving your business growth. And I'm here with Anthony. Anthony, over to you.
And I'm Anthony, and I run a business called Cream HR, which I've done for the last 25 and more years. And we help predominantly small businesses with all aspects of people, all about getting people right. And we have a lot of expertise around recruitment, but also just huge experience of things that happen within small organizations as they start their journey. So we thought we'd share some of that, hopefully, wisdom with you.
Yeah, and the key question we'll be looking at today is like why smart founders hire the wrong people. And before you hire your first specialist, one of the things you need to think about is whether you've actually defined what success looks like for them. So we'll be talking about that today. And Anthony's got a wonderful story that he can share.
Yeah, I thought, well, to begin with, there's no one reason why founders necessarily make a bad hiring decision, but I thought a good place to start, rather than dredging through clients of mine or my experience, is probably to talk about my own experience. And I can absolutely confirm that in the fairly early days of Cream, when we were enjoying some success and starting to grow and build a client base and generate revenues, one of the first hires I made was definitely a wrong hire. Not because there was anything wrong with the person. They were absolutely fabulous. And if they ever saw this, it would be good that they know that I always considered them fabulous. But it was entirely my mistake. And the reason that it was my mistake, I think, was down to why I chose the hire that I chose, which was I'd had a previous business, Cream, and getting it started. It's not an easy sell when you're selling services. And I actually probably just thought, I want to have the easy life that I've built this business for now. So I recruited a really good salesperson. And of course, at an early stage business, which is service based, where it really is very much about me and me knowing the story and knowing everything that we do and the intricacies of it, it was a completely wrong decision to make. I was simply trying to get out of doing some really hard work, which 25 years later I still haven't managed to escape from. But all down to my head sort of jumping forward, thinking, well, we've already got this crap, so I'll recruit a good salespeople person and make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, and that's an easy thing to do, isn't it, when you're making the decisions from that perspective? I mean, personally, one of my ambitions for this year is to hire a marketer to actually do my marketing, so I can spend time helping businesses hire the right marketer and focusing on that. But I also have difficulty letting my husband hang up my washing or our washing because he doesn't do it the right way. So maybe I've got a few things that I need to look at before I hire somebody to do my own marketing.
I wasn't sure how quickly washing was going to come up today, but that was quite good within the first 4 minutes. It was a really good point, though. I think also having hired a really good salesperson, and good salespeople are hard to find as well. It also created a different dynamic in the businesses. Clearly, I'd been doing all the sales work in the first few years, and I had a pretty good way of how I wanted to convey things. And my new colleague didn't quite do it in the same way as me, which is absolutely fine. It's nothing to do with, having to copy me, but in my head, it actually was, that's not how I would have done it. And so it actually caused a completely different dynamic. And the fundamental thing was the business didn't need a new salesperson. it was the wrong hire completely, and that was my decision, and it felt squarely on my shoulders to accept responsibility for that. The sales in the business should have been with me, and um, the requirement in the business is actually more around the operational side and delivery side, and recruiting people or persons into that team to ensure that we could consistently deliver the new sales we were winning. So yeah, but it does trigger a whole other set of um, reactions because you've hired the wrong person.
Yeah, no, totally. And when you kind of hire from that emotional perspective, it usually is not the best way to go about a hire. I was talking to a business owner yesterday, actually, and he was thinking about hiring his first marketer, but he was just like, but how do I get everything that's in my head out and communicate it to them? Because there's a way I speak, there's a way I want to do things, there's a way I want to present my business and like interact with my clients. Like how do I do that? And in a way, it's very much when you hire from that point, it's very much like a educational piece when through the onboarding, but also it's a moment of letting go as well. So when like for you, when you did hire a salesperson, there was a little bit of hesitance because you know your business inside out, you know how you want to present it, you can do sales and you can do it really well, and it's like, is that other person going to kind of talk about your business in a way that you want them to talk about it?
Yeah, and I think it's that, the reason why you decide to hire, it's the pressures that you either have placed upon you or that you place upon yourself in that situation as the sort of founder. I also want to, I'm not sure I can associate myself with the phrase smart founder that you used earlier on, but I think there's lots of different reasons why people also make those wrong decisions early. There is quite a lot of pressure when you're in the early stages of your business, and it comes from lots of different angles. And I was lucky; I've never had external investment and never really sought that because the purpose was, or the plan was never to grow a huge organization. But it was, my pressure was probably wanting to see there was growth, and it can be demonstrated by having people and having a team of people around you, which means you can go and chat to people. So, oh yeah, there's this many of us, or that means, and that wasn't the smart thing to do. It wasn't the right thing to do because it was about actually taking time to look at the business and work out what the business needed. So there's an emotional part about it, and I guess ego gets in there somewhere around that emotion and you wanting to feel good about yourself and feel that people can see that success. It's strange, but there are lots of triggers that go into why you make that bad decision. And of course, in other businesses, it can be down to investor pressure or growth pressure. You're in a sector that's going somewhere very quickly and you need to be seen to be doing the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
so you were often sort of forced unwittingly or otherwise into a hiring position, and that's sometimes a bad place to start when you're then quite possibly going to make a mistake on the role you hire for.
Yeah. And investor pressure is quite an interesting one as well, isn't it? Because I mean, you work with a lot of startups on setting up like their teams, and I do from a marketing perspective, and it's that pressure when they're hiring. They're not just hiring for like this funding round; they're hiring for the next one.
Mm.
Especially when they work in SaaS, because you don't just get investors once. You get investors once for that growth stage, and then once you've passed that growth stage and it's matured a bit more, then you've got another investor round to push you to the next level. So investor pressure is a really interesting one.
Well, you've just made me think of a great client who's a good friend of mine. We've worked together for many, many years, and in one of his businesses, he'd already had great success, and then came back to start another SaaS business. And he said, look, come and see me. I want you to meet the team, spend some time with them. So I went to meet him in London, and he sat there and he said, I've got 4 or 5 people in the team. I'd like you to spend half an hour with each of them. I'm not going to tell you anything about them, and then we'll go and have a chat afterwards, and you tell me what you think. And when we started our lunch, I don't even think I said anything. He said, I know what you're going to say about one of them. And one of them was clearly wrong. There was nothing wrong with them as a person. They were a really bright, nice person, and they would have fitted really well, but they were so wrong for that stage of the business. And, my client was saying, I know you're going to say they're wrong because of, but I think they're absolutely right. And 3 months later, we're having a conversation about how do I get rid of this person because they're wrong. And this isn't about me being right, but it's about that situation was this person was fabulously qualified and had got lots of experience of working within startups, but was working within startups from the point of view of a big corporate. So he worked for a big 4 consultancy, helping small businesses get going. So the difference being that whenever they had an issue, if they felt that the startup was going to be a success, you could just turn around to them and say, give me £1 million. We need more money. Whereas in a normal startup, that doesn't exist. So there's no reality of the fact that in a normal early stage business, you do everything. You get your hands dirty, you make the tea, you go out and find things that you need to find to deliver some presentation. You go and scrape around for a bit of software. You've got to really get under the bonnet and do all of the crappy things. And that works for certain people and it doesn't work for everyone. So I think you'll often find investor pressure will introduce someone who they think is fantastic, who has immense talent, but is probably right for the business in 5-10 years time when it's a massive scale difference in numbers of people in organization, and then they'd fit in. But that sort of narrative of this wonderful shiny person that appears in front of you that can solve all your problems isn't necessarily right. And it's having the conviction and the ability to be really objective in those positions and situations to make the right decision, because 9 times out of 10 you'll go with your investors.
Yeah, and 100%. And it kind of resonates with a chat I was having yesterday with somebody, and I keep referring to yesterday because yesterday I gave a talk, and one of the questions I had was like, well, what if we get an application from somebody from like Vodafone, and they were a small company, they're a startup company. I was just like, well, if you got an application from somebody from Vodafone, like, yeah, that's great, but they've not got the skills that you need. And Vodafone's a big corporate company. There's a hierarchy. They like each person has their lane. You want somebody to get messy. You want somebody to dive in, get their hands dirty, and do a bit of everything at this stage. So yeah, it's very easy for founders to get distracted by the shininess of some CVs when it's actually not quite right for them. And I want to take this moment just to invite the audience. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comments, and we will answer them. So if anything's coming up for you, let us know.
Absolutely. And I think that there are countless stories of that sort of environment where people do get presented with the wonderful shiny thing, and there will be people, and lots of them, where it has worked. It's not impossible for it to work, but it's highly unusual for someone who's come from that big corporate environment to slot in well into an early stage startup. But yeah.
So, and talking about like when people slot in, so it's not just about the hiring of the person. It's about understanding what they exactly want that person to do when they come in, isn't it? It's about setting those expectations and foundations for them.
It is. I think the thing Now, we touched on it earlier. There's ego that gets in the way of this, and I like to use a method of sort of looking in the mirror. None of us look at ourselves, and we're never filmed while we're at work. We don't actually know how we behave and what we do and what we like to work with. We've got an image in our heads that says we're wonderful, but the real skill in this is to actually be able to step back from whatever the situation is, but in this context, step back from the business and really try and work out in a pretty dispassionate way what it is the business needs. And that's really important, as you say. That's this having a plan mentality and really thinking about how you mentioned it earlier, how would you measure success? So that mindset should be, okay, if we're doing this, what does it look like when we've got this right? What is this going to do for the business? And is that the real issue that the business needs to solve first? So yeah, it's a challenge for founders in lots of ways, because it sits on your shoulders. You don't really have people to bounce these ideas around with. But if you can sort of manage to extricate yourself mentally from the situation and look at it more dispassionately, it's a really valuable thing to do to try and properly articulate what you need.
Yeah, and it is a skill to be able to do that, isn't it? Because when you're a founder, it's your baby, you've nurtured it, you've grown it, it's your idea, you're working to bring it to life. So it is really personal. So actually, to make a kind of dispassionate, impersonal hire to get the right one is it's a difficult skill to have, and
So
one that you really need to dig for.
isn't it? And it's interesting because when you're in a consultancy or a service business, it's quite easy to advise others. But when it comes to doing it yourself, I always have this narrative, partly because of my years of working within a particular sector, but generally recruiters make terrible recruiters. Recruitment businesses recruit questionably often, in my opinion and my experience. And they're great at recruiting for clients, for their clients, but when it comes to recruiting for themselves, it's a very different exercise. And that's all about taking the blinkers off and actually trying to look at it just as clinically as you would for a client. And emotions and other things get in the way.
Yeah, oh, 100%. I mean, when you view your business, you view it through your own lens. I mean, even marketers running their own business need help from other marketers. Like, I'm going to give a shout out to Rowena, who's hopefully
Yeah,
listening to this live. She's an amazing marketing strategist, and I do her marketing sprint because I love the way she views my business, and I love the way she asks me the questions to make me look at my business differently. And sometimes you need that outside perspective and input to kind of nudge the way you view it yourself. And
I
that
think it's
opens up a whole,
absolutely essential. If you can find that, it's invaluable. And
yeah,
just having any sounding board that you can use, that you also trust and you'll use and value. Don't dismiss other people's opinions. People are offering you help for a reason, and it's really good to have that outside perspective. And Rowena's asked a good question, actually, which we might come back to because it sort of fits in a little bit later, I think.
we'll take a look at that. And just moving back to the foundations point that we were talking about earlier, is that one of the things that I say all the time, like for businesses, especially when they're hiring their first marketer, is like foundations are crucial, because you need to create the right foundations to support that role. And they're not just crucial for marketers; they're crucial for um, other employees in the business as well, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think it's really also about that expectation, because I know you've got a great experience of when you hire early in a business. There's also a great deal of expectation on the new hire. It's they're going to solve every problem under the sun because we've finally broken through and we've got this person that with this shiny glossy thing that we've found. And that's also really important as well, is having really sensible and reasonable expectations. And I think one of your experiences with someone in a marketing role and the owner's expectations are a really good example of that.
Yeah, yeah, and you need to communicate what you want that role to output. And yeah, with marketing, we'll come to it in another one of our conversations, our founder conversations further down the line. It's all about understanding the inputs you need for the outputs that you want. And with marketing, that doesn't always come from marketing, the inputs. So yeah, shall we take a quick look at
Yeah.
what Rowena says? Like, the hardest thing about hiring for her has been knowing what to delegate and how. Like, suddenly needing to communicate after you've had to communicate with anyone else is a big shift. What would you say about
Yeah,
that?
so I mean, it's a huge in a startup business. When you recruit, that person has a huge impact on the organization because, percentage wise, you've just increased the size of the organization by an enormous amount, so they're significant. And I think that early stage about communication is really important. So I think that comes down to actual communication between the two people and discussing expectations, being very clear about expectations, but really asking your new colleague how they like to work. Big part of this is ensuring that onboarding part when someone joins you in a small business is well thought through and well considered and done well. It's really vital to realize it's not just about you. This is about both of you or all of you and how you work together. So that new person should be given a real opportunity to talk about their likes, what their expectations are, how they like to work, where they work best, the environments that they thrive in, and what they find difficult, and how to work with them when they find things that are difficult. So it's about that cultural piece and setting that. The other part of Rowena's question in my head is also not just about the how you delegate. It comes back to what you mentioned earlier, Annique. It's that sense of you to do it a certain way. So because this is your baby and you've always done it this way, someone new coming in will do it differently because they're not you. And it's being able to accept that and realize that that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, as long as the output or the action is right in terms of what it's trying to achieve. How someone's trying to achieve it isn't necessarily your issue, because that's their job. I can remember that very firsthand, the way things are written. So we do a lot of written work logically, and I'd be so used to the way I'd style certain letters and documents, and then someone coming in and you're looking at it going, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. That's not how I do it. But you've got to just put a break on and go, that's fine. That's because I'm not doing it. And then just look at it and go, is it actually correct? Is there anything in here that I should recommend as a change or a tweak that's needed? But if the content's actually fine, and then gradually realizing that actually people might be better than you. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think any marketer out there that's listening to this, they'll nod along. It's very common in marketing where the sign off is just micromanaged from above. And again, it goes back to the fact that the business is their baby, but sometimes it's not the best idea to want to sign off every LinkedIn post, every blog post that's created. Change where full stops are and rephrase things. It's best to kind of like give the person the autonomy and the authority to do their role and to actually carry it out, because micromanagement like that can stifle what that person can actually bring to your business and what that person can actually do.
Absolutely. I think it's a great, just simple thing to have in your head is treat people like adults. They are. They want to do a good job. They've come in to do a good job. So give them the opportunity to do that. And a big part of that, of course, is keeping communicating. So then catching up with people regularly and saying, what are you enjoying? What's good? What are you enjoying? What are you really proud of? What are you finding more difficult? How can I help you with the more difficult? And praising them for the good work that they do. It's very much that cultural piece is so vitally important at that early stage hire, and making sure that you're actually building something. It's not about you, it's about something, and the something is made up of people, and getting those hires right. So recruiting for the right role, and then giving someone the opportunity to do well. And you do that through communication and real clarity and clear understanding of what's expected, and making sure someone's comfortable being with what you expect them to do and that they can do it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to be diving deeper into that further along in our founder conversations, because I mean it impacts like everything across the business, because as we all know, businesses aren't built in vacuums. They're a collaboration of people, and they're a collaboration of talented people. So if you hire them in talent you must trust, kind of
Absolutely
thing. So yes, but from your experience, and from the how you've helped your businesses and clients along the years, what do you think the real problem is, that the one deep down that founders have in hiring initially?
I think a lot of it comes down to that real clarity around a plan, if you like, in simple terms. So, we touched on it when we were speaking separately about the fact that why do people start businesses, and there are a myriad of reasons why. So, some people will do it just because they sort of fall into it and they've become good at something and get a reputation, and it can become a business opportunity. Some people just fancy having a go at it. Some people have a real clear idea of world domination and want to. But the hiring piece is about having a plan of what you're trying to achieve with this hire. What's the purpose? Because you have to consider the cost implications to an organization. So when you're a small business, money matters. And even if you've got investors, money matters, because the investors will be looking at your expenditure and saying, what's this for and why have you done that? So recruitment's time consuming, it's expensive. Getting it wrong costs your business a great deal of money. So the lack of a plan. So if I go back to my experience at the start, hiring the wrong salesperson for me probably set the business back months, if not more, because I sort of extricated myself from my day-to-day sales role to be working on, I don't know, strategy is a grandiose term. And actually that meant I was away from that sharp cold front sales work that I'd been doing, and losing opportunities and then trying to regenerate them is really hard. So that plan, and it's almost like take a step and say, in 12 months, if I've got this recruitment right, what are we going to have achieved as a business? What will it have delivered in quantifiable terms? And that's a really powerful way to start thinking about the recruitment and what you actually need.
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%. I think hiring the wrong salesperson is a little bit like hiring the wrong marketer, and it's like you say, it's not necessarily about the person, it's the way you go about hiring, the way you decide, the way you set the foundations and everything. And when you get it wrong, it can be disastrous, because you lose time, you lose money, and it's not just money in like their salary or national insurance, it's the money, the cost of recruitment, the cost of all the equipment and onboarding and everything, the time that you've invested in them. And you lose market share, and you, like you mentioned, you lose opportunities. So the actual overall cost of it is priceless. And then you lose a bit of confidence in yourself.
Yeah, the knock-on effect and the knock-on cost to an organisation, to you as a founder, is really huge. There's a lot of research done on how much it costs to recruit the wrong person and the damage to a business, and there are lots of different schools of thought. But as you said then, it's that if you take the sales situation, opportunities that you have in a small business is vital. They're your lifeblood. And if you burn them and if you lose them because you've missed the opportunity, so you've put a new person on who didn't understand your service as well as you do, so they didn't make the most of the opportunity, and all of a sudden it's an opportunity gone and you won't get that back. So it really is important to think about these things in as sensible and practical a way as you possibly can, to make sure you make the right choice of what role to hire.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So we've unpacked a lot today about hiring and how, you know, we can make the wrong decisions, and, you know, the pitfalls that you'd like to, or you need to avoid. And that is the wrap up. I hope it is useful, or has been useful for you today. I hope you've got a lot out of this live. Next time we will be looking at why HR isn't just admin, it's infrastructure. And we'll be taking a deeper dive to help founders grow and grow effectively. It's been great talking to you today, Anthony, and sharing your wisdom, our wisdom, with the wider LinkedIn community.
It's been great speaking with you, Annique, as always. Thank you very much, and thank anyone who's joined us this morning. We hope it's been useful.
Yep. Thank you all for joining me. Take care and see you next time.